Laurel Hubbard is a 43-year-old trans woman weightlifter from New Zealand and is going to be competing in the Tokyo Olympics starting tomorrow or the next day. Um, and let's call a spade a spade. Trans woman is a biological man, and she is going to be competing in the women's category and not the men's category, which is, to me, it's completely insane. The world has gone mad. Men are stronger than women because you think you are something, identify as something, feel you are born in the wrong body, which I have the utmost amount of sympathy towards you if that is the case. It must be a terrible thing to have to live like that. But because you identify as a certain way, doesn't mean that that changes your biology, and going on hormones for a couple of years is not going to mitigate the effects of testosterone flowing through your body for decades. The advantages that a man has biologically over a woman are significant. Like, I train jiu-jitsu, and you roll with girls from time to time, women from time to time. Obviously, most people in the class are men, but um, there are women there, and there's some really talented women. I've got tapped more than once by girls that are just better at jiu-jitsu than I am. But there's a significant difference in strength, in power, you name it. I mean, this should be obvious to the vast majority of people, and the people that it's not obvious to are completely deluded. Um, the ligament strength, the tendon strength, the muscle mass, the hips, the advantages the male hips have compared to the women's hips, bone density, the male reaction time is much quicker, which I didn't know till recently. If you think how boxers work, in milliseconds, the male reaction time is far quicker than women's reaction time for whatever reason. Um, but my heart goes out to the women in her category who, I mean, they might have spent their entire lives just to even get to the Olympics. It is a serious feat in itself. But to go and win a gold medal or have a chance to win a gold medal is something that you have to dedicate your life to. It has to be your job. You don't just do it on the weekends. This is what dominates every waking moment of your life. And to these women, it's going to be a lifelong goal to have a shot of getting that gold medal at the Olympics. And here you have this biological man who decides that he's a woman in his late 30s or whenever it is. He's 43 now. Um, and I decides to identify as a woman. And guess what? I want to compete now as a woman, even though I still have the biology of a man, and a man that has had the advantage of decades of testosterone flowing through his body. It's not fair. It is not fair on those women. So any feminists out there that think that this is a good idea, you're not feminists. You're not for women's rights. You're for men's rights, essentially. You're standing up for a biological man over biological women. And where trans rights, you see these banners with trans rights are human rights and all of this kind of thing. I'm for trans rights. If people want to identify as whatever they want to identify as, it's none of my business. I don't care if you're a guy, you want to call yourself a girl, get into a dress and call yourself a girl's name. I would call them she. If I met Caitlyn Jenner, I would call Caitlyn Jenner Caitlyn instead of Bruce, she instead of he, just to be respectful, just to why would I, there's more to life than being right all the time. But when it's an actual biological man going into women's sports, and trashing them, it's brutal. He is going to win. She is going to win the gold medal, without ambiguity. Going to win. There's no doubt about it. We've seen what happens when there's crossover between men and women's sports. The best team in the world, the women's football team, the American women's football team, they're world champions. I mean, they got hammered by under 15 schoolboy side. It happens every time. It's the Australian women's team as well. They got beaten by the under 15s, I think 7-0 or something. It happens every time. And it's not to say that these women aren't skilled sports people, because of course they are, but they just can't make up for the differences biologically. And men and women's sports are separate for a reason. This whole thing is going to end in tears. And it's not going to be men's tears. It's going to be the tears of women out there. Because if it keeps happening, they're going to get smashed in their own sports. What's the solution to this? I think they should compete with the men because they are biological men. But if that's too provocative for them, they should make up a new category. Trans people Olympics. There's men, women, and then trans people can compete against each other. I have no problem with that if that's what they want to do. But you can't have biological men competing against biological women because there's only one winner there.